The first one was my best friend, and I was like, so do you want to hang out today, sort of thing. And then we kind of just were walking around for a good 2 hours, and I was sitting there trying to get it out like constantly. And I remember it was just like walking up this like street. We always used to walk to and from school, and then I finally managed to put it out, and I was just like, Shani, I'm gay. And then I was just like, took a deep breath, and as everything was like, oh my god, it's out there, I wonder what she's gonna say. And then she just went, oh, it's cool, I am too. And I just went, I spent the last 2 hours trying to tell me that, and you couldn't have added that in earlier.
Well, the first thing I did was I came out to a very close friend of mine, and it wasn't really a big deal at all when I actually came out. Well, I thought it would be a big deal, but it actually ended up being, oh, that's all right. That's not a big deal at all.
Crikey. It's quite a complicated story, really, in that my coming out story is very much entwined with my family story. When I was 14, I found out my dad was terminally ill. And my dad was kind of quite an older guy, really. He was kind of probably most of your grandparents' generation. So, and he was awesome. He was like an amazing man, but at the same time, he kind of was a man of his generation and a product of his generation. So he could have been sometimes quite racist and pretty homophobic. So kind of like being 14 and finding out my dad was terminally ill, I kind of had to make a choice as to whether I came out or I didn't, and it was a really difficult choice to make. And I just, it's quite an emotional story to tell, really. But like, obviously I loved my dad a lot, so I just wanted him to be proud of his son for the time that we had together. So I never really came out to my dad. And I think it took him 10 years for his condition to progress, and he kind of passed away when I was 24. And I had to look after my mum and sort of pick up the pieces and stuff. So I always felt like there was never a good time to come out.
I didn't want to tell my parents because I felt like I let them down a bit. Like I let them down in ways of like the traditional family, things like that. I felt like I couldn't give them that. And I think telling them not only kind of made me realise who I was and made me like live my life, it helped them to realise who I am as well.
It was for about almost a year. My mum was like, Jack, are you gay? You know it'd be okay if you were gay. You know, I've always wanted a gay son. You know it'd be okay if you were gay. And then one day we were just sitting in the kitchen and she said it like this last time, and I was just like, fine, you're right, I'm gay, it's fine, like just drop it now. And then she just kind of came over and gave me a hug and said it was all right. And I'm like, I mean, I suppose she kind of like, she worried a lot. She was like doing more research on it than I did, because in the end, she didn't mind that I was gay. Like, it wasn't a bad thing. In fact, more often than not, she said she was quite happy that she had a son that she watched Desperate Housewives with now. But it was that she knew being gay was going to be a harder lifestyle for anyone. So she kind of didn't want things to be hard for me, just like most parents do. They just want their child to be happy and have a good life, and she knew that road would be harder for me, but in the end I'm not too bothered about it. I come out stronger in the end for it, I suppose.
I think when I told my mum first time, she didn't believe me, and she didn't believe that I was gay. She thought, oh, maybe it was just a phase, maybe I've had the wrong boys, and I was just like, no, it's not boys. And I had to tell her a couple times before she said, look, I get it, I get you're gay, and then just moved on, and it's all right now. So.
And then I came out to my parents later on, and they were quite okay with it, actually. They, at the end of the day, they want you to be happy, and I guess they were fine with it. Well, they might have had visions of me marrying a wife and having grandchildren and things like that, but they kind of they always end up adjusting to circumstances they get, and it always ends up quite well at the end, I guess.
Like I finally like, not broke, but just sort of, like I had to say it, otherwise I never would.
And then one day I just decided I had to kind of tell someone. So I was living with my friend Cage, who I've known for years, and Cage is like, she's like a sister, really. and she came home. I decided I had to tell someone. So when she came home from work, I was just like, Paige, I need to tell you something. And she was like, you know, but they all knew about what happened in my past and my family and things like that, and they'd all been there for me throughout the whole time. So she was like, what's happened? Or something happened at home? And I was like, no, it's me. It kind of literally just erupted. I just sort of like, I can't really remember what happened. I can't really remember what I said. I just remember it just kind of burst out, and there was a lot of emotion and a lot of tears. But I was beyond the point of being frightened or scared anymore. It was just literally this whole feeling kind of overtook me and it overwhelmed me. Kate did art therapy at uni, so she was probably the best person I could have come out to, really. She was amazing, and she just, yeah, it was just it doesn't matter. You're still careful, it makes no difference sort of thing.
It's slightly different for me, and my mum was the first person I ever told. And then she like supported me through everything else. Like I went back to uni, and I would like phone her up, and she would talk to me, and then I would go and tell my housemates, and then I'd call her up afterwards and tell her how it went.
So anyway, I came out to my sister on a train, which was quite random. I was on the phone, and she'd phoned me up, and she was just asking me about whether I'd started seeing any girls or anything like this. And I was like, no, Joe, I haven't seen any girls, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, are you sure you're not gay? And I said, well, it's funny you come to mention that, actually, Joe. And then she was just like, oh, fuck off, you're winding me up. And it took about an hour to convince her that I wasn't winding her up. And then she was just amazing. She did the whole usual kind of like, oh yes, I've got a brother who can come shopping with me and this, that and the other. And I was like, no, you can forget that, you know, sort of just, no, Joe, that's a stereotype. You need to kind of, I'm not going to be that kind of gay brother kind of thing.
It was kind of an awkward situation because I knew I wanted to tell them, and that was the moment to do so. But just the conversation didn't come up, obviously, at any point. So, like, my father said something that was a bit bad about a guy that appeared on TV, and I actually like got out of the room and slammed the door. Because I was also ill, in fact, at that moment, like with like high fever. And he came out to my room, and then, well, so I told him, and it was like really surprising because like the first thing he said was that he was sorry. So that was not something I was really expecting. So yeah, and then he even asked me if I wanted him to like tell my brother, my sister, my mom, and everyone. So it was really, yeah, it was a really positive thing.
So like anyway, I got home and my sisters were like, I think you need to tell Mum. She needs to know, it's not fair and stuff. And I kind of agreed, and I thought the time was right to tell her. So I kind of tried to get around it, but I could just feel this tension building, and I kind of got a bit snappy and stuff. Anyway, me and my mum had some big Barney whilst I was at home, and I ended up storming off. I think it was very much just about this tension and like the whole kind of anxiety of telling her. And my mum had asked my sisters, what's wrong with your brother? He's been really snappy the whole time he's been here. He's just been fucking horrible, in all fairness, and I probably had been. And anyway, I think my mum got a bit upset, and my sister was just like, look Mum, there's something that Kev needs to tell you, but you just need to be listened and you need to be patient. My mum just panicked and was like, what's wrong? Is he ill or something like that? So in the end, my sister actually told my mum, which kind of was a huge relief for me in many ways. Anyway, so I came home from this sort of storming off sort of thing to a house where everyone was teary-eyed and had been crying and stuff. I thought, oh fuck, it's all gone down. And I walked up to my mum and I just sort of said, I'm still your son. I still love you. Nothing's changed. But my mum's like, well, she'd have been in her late 60s, early 70s at this time. I can't remember exactly. And she was just like, did we do something wrong? I think was the expression, which is typical of my mum, to blame herself. Do you need to see a doctor? All these kind of things that were kind of going through her head. And it was really weird. I thought I'd be really upset. I didn't really feel anything about myself. It was just the fact that I was sort of, my mum looked so frightened. In my head I was thinking, you know, when you have a kid, you probably have all these plans and these dreams and ambitions for your kid. And I don't fault a parent for having that. You know, I can't blame parents for having those sort of, you know, that's just natural. It's no different from how I feel about being gay and stuff. That's just how it is. And I could see my mum, I could see that she was frightened, and she was frightened for me, and at the same time, so I was thinking, as difficult as this is for me, it must be really difficult for her. Anyway, kind of like, I just sort of, we had a bit of a cry, and then my mum did the best thing that she could have done in respect of anyone once. It's just, well, I love you, you're my son, and that doesn't change, and that won't ever change, and it will take time for me to get used to it. So kind of, yeah, it's a few years on now, and we're in a good place, and it's much better, but at the time it was all just really difficult.
Before I came out, because I was so scared that people would find out, it kind of made me creep back into my shell a bit, and it kind of made me think, oh, am I going to be good enough to talk to this person, or am I going to be good enough to say this or that? But I think after coming out, it's made me realise I'm out on show, this is me, this is what I have to offer, and it's just pushed me in every direction to get involved with everything, and I'm so happy I came out when I did, because I wouldn't have made as many friends if I didn't.
The difference is people know me now, and I think people see me, and I think to be a healthy person you need to be seen in your entirety by people, and that means kind of all aspects of yourself. I just think I'm 100 times more confident, I'm happier, so much happier.
Certainly made me a lot more comfortable. I remember when I wasn't out, like from the ages about like 14 to 16, I was sitting there thinking like, I'm not being myself, like there are these things that people don't know about me, and it was just really awkward trying to keep up the facade of being straight and things like that. And then when I started coming out like to friends, I just felt so much more comfortable around them. Like I was like, because being gay is both such a big thing and such a tiny thing about yourself. Like it's a big thing because, well, it's just part of who you are, but then it's a small thing because it doesn't change who you are either. So it was kind of nice to have it out in the open, but none of them treated me any differently for it. It was just nice that they knew the whole me now.
Yeah, I don't know, I think it's just like I can be myself and not have to hide in the dark, and just sort of let the light shine on me and be whoever I want to be, and let people see me for who I actually am. And that in itself is probably the most liberating experience I'll ever have. So.
Being closeted makes you feel a bit down all the time, because you're not open to others, or you don't have, or your friends don't know who you are, and you tend to behave in a different way. So coming out actually has a huge liberating experience.
I'll say take your time. Just there's no set date. You don't have to come out by the age of 30 or something. You don't have to come out to everyone. You can just take your time, talk to other people, and just see how they've come out, if they've come out, what they think about it. Just take it at your own pace. There's no rush at all. Like just, it'll be much if you take it at your own pace and then just be more relaxed about it.
The more you tell people, the more you kind of feel okay with yourself, and it becomes normal. I think the worst thing to do is to feel as though you can't be yourself and you can't tell anyone, because once that starts happening, you kind of retract back, and then you don't tell people. But if you just keep reassuring yourself and just keep tell people, oh yeah, I'm gay, blah blah blah, it actually makes you become friends with more people. I don't know how it works like that, but it just, ever since I told more people, I just feel like more people wanted to get to know me because I've been so honest with them.
Well, I'd say that coming out is a liberating process, and you always end up feeling much better after doing that. Having said that, coming out can be a very daunting and difficult task for many people, and it doesn't always end in a beautiful way. But whatever happens with time things tend to become better.
Thinking about it is always worse than actually doing it. I think when I was thinking about coming out, I would just, I'd spend hours agonising over what I would do and what people might say, but when you actually just do it, all my friends were like, yeah, so anyway, what were you gonna eat for our dinner? Like, they didn't care at all. So yeah, just go for it. And if your friends are good friends and they won't care, they'll love you just as you are.
I'd rather not be friends with someone who wouldn't accept me for who I am.
I think is the best way for people to come out.
It depends on the person, but my person was just like this.
So yeah.
Can I give him a hug?
Yeah. Go and give it a hug.
Oh, it's okay.
Why are you crying? Okay.
You could always look at me, I'm pretty.